One of my commenters, Kurt, thank you, sent me a link to the Academy Awards where Sir Anthony Hopkins was presenting an Academy Award to his actress buddy, Dame Emma Thompson, who I covered in the video Beast Empire Symbolism. So I looked up Sir Anthony Hopkins, and he is another British actor who plays roles in movies and plays about their polytheist history. Gary Wayne mentioned in a recent interview that 90% of the Disney movies are made about polytheist occult history. And I looked up a list of Disney movies, and they've produced 818 movies since the 1930s. So that's a lot of occult history and propaganda, but it's obviously not just Disney. Movies, literature, plays, opera, music, etc. The majority are created to illustrate and promote the evolution of kings and their polytheist occult history. Sir James Frazer, in his book that he published in 1890, The Golden Bough, The Magic Art and the Evolution of Kings, Sir James Frazer alludes to movies as magic art. 1890 would have been right around the time the first film was produced, because that was in 1888 in France. And here's a quote from his book. "Magic, religion, and science are nothing but theories of thought. As science has supplanted its predecessors," meaning science supplanted magic and religion, "it may hereafter be itself superseded by some more perfect hypothesis, perhaps by some totally different way of looking at the phenomena of registering the shadows on the screen." So what he's saying here is registering spirits of his ancestors on the screen. He's talking about movies. So, Sir Anthony Hopkins, he's also commander of the British Empire, another one of their bards, educated at the Royal Academy Theatre. Let's look at some of the occult polytheist history movies he's been in. And there are many, but I'll just name a few. So most people recognize him for Hannibal Lecter in Silence of the Lambs, who some say is the scariest horror film character of all time. And then he was in Hannibal and Red Dragon, and I think there are about 4 of those movies. But this is my favorite. Of course, he played Van Helsing in Bram Stoker's Dracula. So of course he's in a vampire movie. Van Helsing is the doctor and alchemist from Bram Stoker's edition of Dracula. Lots of alchemy themes in vampire movies. He also played Sir John Talbot in the movie Wolfman, which is about a werewolf. And Sir John Talbot is an actual historical figure. Who is he? He's an English nobleman and military commander during the 100 Years' War, and he was most notable Order of the Garter, the witch vampire coven that the Windsors are in, based on the Countess of Salisbury, who was a representation of Lilith, established by King Edward III in 1348. So Sir John Talbot would have been among the first members of the Order of the Garter. And here he is presenting a book to the Queen of England, Margaret Anjou, of the Merovingian bloodline. And here he has garters all over his robe. So he's depicted as a shape-shifting werewolf, which some say is the same thing as a vampire, basically. And in this movie, played by Anthony Hopkins. And there's a reason why they depict these bloodliners as vampires in movies. And werewolves, you see. Anthony Hopkins was also in Young Winston, which was a movie about Winston Churchill, who was a druid, but was lionized in history, of course. He was in Lion in the Winter, which is about Henry II, a lot of Shakespeare plays, just like the others. He played the Norse god Odin in the Thor movies. He played Sir Edmund Burton as the last living member of the Wiccans in Transformer: The Last Night. He played C.S. Lewis in Shadowlands. He played Sigmund Freud. He played a telekinetic time traveler in Hearts in Atlantis. Pope Benedict XVI, he was in Westworld, Magic, The Magic Box, Titus, which is another Shakespeare. He played Ptolemy and Alexander. He was in All the King's Men. It also says that he was promoted by Laurence Olivier, whose Order of Merit, who's also played in many Shakespeare plays and screen adaptations, who dominated the British stage, and most people would be familiar with him in Spartacus, which was one of Stanley Kubrick's first films, where he played a Roman general. He also played the Nazi hunter in Boys from Brazil, which is about Mengele, the famous Auschwitz doctor who was trying to clone Hitler. Thanks for listening.